Hi guys, it's Belle here, and today I'm coming on with a little bit of a request. So a few weeks ago, I want to say, Tony over at Crafty by Tony opened up some Happy Mail that I had sent her. We'd done a swap earlier in the year. I will leave that video linked down below. And one of the things I had gifted her was some of this kind of faux leather type paper. Now this is the only scrap I have left because I've used lots of it, and some of you may have seen me use it in projects. I know I used it in some of my Creep on June 25 projects, and she had asked if I'd be able to do a video on it. Now I have to say this was not my original idea. A couple of years ago, I want to say, I watched a video. If I can find it, I will try and link it down below, but obviously it was a while ago and I have watched a lot of videos since then, but I'll see. And so I took inspiration from that video to make this, and so we're going to have a go today because I haven't made it in probably over a year. And I know Tony was interested in how it's made. So let me just tell you what you are going to need if you want to have a go at something like this. You're going to need some sort of brown paper, brown packaging paper. You could probably use brown envelopes. I don't know, just some brown paper. And then you're going to need some tea bags, or I was thinking, I know Tony sent me some coffee filters. I don't know if that would also work, but definitely the tea bags work. And you see this kind of mark here. These are from the marks on the tea bags. So you're going to need some of those. I was wondering if you could do something similar with some vintage stone pattern paper, but I don't know. You're going to need some archival inks. So not archival, what's the word I am looking for? Inks that don't smudge. Why can my brain not work today? But yes, you're going to need some sort of varnish or sealant. I'm going to be using Mod Podge. That's what I used before. You're going to need a variety of embossing folders. Now, I cannot find my favourite one. There is a Tim Holtz one that's like a spiral with almost like a stone effect. That's my favourite one to use. But this one really will give more of a leather effect. This is what I've used here. So I'm just going to, if you want to know what this is, it's the Texture Fades one. Does it say what it's called? Reptile. 666296. I'm just going to be using a few different ones. And that's about it. You can also stamp on this different textures and things. Maybe we'll have a go at that. And it is pretty simple. I am going to rip a piece of this brown paper. Really doesn't matter on size, guys. Really doesn't. So I'm going to rip some of this. It's already nice and creased. I'm trying to remember if in the video that I watched or when I've done this before, whether I crinkle it all, because normally if I do faux leather effects like you would have seen on my Creep on June 25 journal, I normally crumple up the paper to give me that crinkle. And I can't remember if we do that or not. I mean, this is pretty flat, but it has gone through an embossing folder, so I don't think it matters. And we are just going to, quite simply, from what I remember, as I said, this has been a while since I've made this. I'm going to use my Mod Podge or whatever kind of varnish glue that you use, matte medium. I would say matte is better, although even matte Mod Podge can leave a slight gloss. but matte's probably better if you really are going for more of a faux leather look. And then you're just going to layer up your tea bags on here. And you are going to go over the top of them as well. So there's quite a lot of varnish involved in this, which means you'll also need some drying time. But I mean, Mod Podge and that dries really quickly, so I'm not too worried. And yeah, I just like, look how grungy that one is. You just put them on. Make sure there's enough glue wherever you're putting them. And tea bags are so easy to make. You could probably get even grungier effects. I do not drink any kind of caffeinated tea. I will say that when I am tea dyeing, I do use normal, I suppose what people would class as normal tea bags. So caffeinated tea bags, you know, like Yorkshire tea is very popular over here in the UK, or breakfast tea. So I will use those, but normally, because I don't drink those, my stash of tea bags is actually from my green tea, which is completely herbal. So I can still get a really good, if you look at that, a really good grunge effect on that. Let me just do this. Because it's a new bottle of Mod Podge, I keep putting my brush in far too far into the bottle and then end up with too much on my brush. So yes, we're just going to do this with all of these. Got a little gap there, which is fine because I can just grab a little bit of tea bag, and it really doesn't matter. Again, you're going to be embossing this, so it doesn't matter how you lay them on each other. Like, you don't have to go in a straight line. You can rip and tear. I don't know if that really adds to the effect, if I'm honest, because once embossed you won't really see any of that. But just to let you know, there's, well, when I last did it, I just kind of did it anyway, that I thought, oh, that looks like it needs a bit more. Like there, that looks like it needs a little bit more. You don't need to, honestly, I need to stop putting my brush in so far. You don't need to layer them up if you don't want to. I just am, and that's okay. And so I'm going to do this over all this brown paper, and then I'll be back. So I have basically finished all those. What I would say is it is probably better to rip off, let me just show you, rip off these end pieces on a tea bag. Do you see that? And they're super easy to do because you just kind of grab them and they tear straight off. Because I noticed as I was doing it, I can't remember if I did this the first time or not, but I noticed as I was doing it, the bits where the edges are ripped off here look much better than the bits with the edges on. Now, once you've finished, have a look and think, oh, do I like it? Is there anywhere that could do with maybe a little bit more grunginess? And then you can just come on with another little bit that you can then put, because I feel like this bit down here needs a bit more grungy. So you can just put another bit on. Make sure though, what you're doing is when you're using your varnish, firstly, make sure you get underneath all of those edges. You do not want any edges coming up, as it were. So yeah, you need to be super careful of all the edges. I've got this piece and I think I'm just going to add it kind of here. Yeah, so make sure those are completely down when you do them. I'm guessing if you really wanted to, you could do 2 or 3 layers, but it's not necessary. 1 layer is enough, realistically. I'm just going to go over all of this. And then, yes, you go over the whole thing with a vinyl covering of your matte medium, your varnish. And the name of the ink I was thinking of before, which honestly, guys, was permanent. You want a permanent ink pad, whatever that may be. Stays on, archival, whatever, Versamark, whatever permanent ink pad you have, you are definitely looking for one of those. You can already see how soft this is. It does feel like leather. I'm just going over any place that I think, oh, does that look like it needs more varnish? Now, we're going to leave this to dry. And once it's dry, we're going to come back and do the next bit. So that is basically dry now. So you can see that some areas still have some white on them. I'm not quite sure why, but other areas you just see the beautiful sort of colouring. Now, normally I would go over this with like an old emery board, nail file, sandpaper, anything like that to make it nice and smooth. So I'm just going to briefly do that. I don't want to bring up the tea bag from the paper. I just want to smooth any bits down realistically. Again, this may not be necessary. I can't remember, but it's something I like to do. We're going to add detail anyway with the embossing. So I feel like, realistically, that if you flatten it, it might take the embossing. I am so sorry that I am shaking the camera. Also, you may not even be able to hear me with all the embossing, all the filing. Okay, so we've done that. And now I'm going to cut it into sizes that should hopefully go through my machine. So you will need some sort of embossing machine for this. I have one of the Sizzix Big Shots. That's what I use. Mine is so old it's falling apart, but it still does the job. So now what you need to do is you're going to get your ink, and we're going to do a couple of different things because I want to experiment. But we're going to do the first one, which is one that I know that I've done. So on the side that is sort of raised and, yeah, more kind of raised with more deboss areas. So basically on the front cover, if you have one of these, it's on the front cover, not the plain black back. And we are going to get this, whatever permanent ink pad you have. I'm going to use my black Stays On for this, and you're going to rub your ink pad really well over your embossing folder like so, and then it's going to have to be this way. We're going to close it down on here with the tea bag bit up, and then I'm going to emboss. So I'm hoping this has worked. It took me a while to get my embossing machine in the right bit. Oh yes, look at that, guys. So we have our faux leather. If we trim this down, like so, we have a piece we can work with like that. So that's nice. It's good. Let's try a different one. Let's try a different folder. I'm going to just quickly clean the inside of this embossing folder. But let's try a different one, because certain ones work better than others, not just for a faux leather effect, but they just work better than others. So yeah, this is Reptile, which is 666296. I want to try the Texture Fades Industrious, which is 665754, and I don't think I've done one. Maybe I have. Maybe I did one with this before. I guess we're going to see. Let me just cut this kind of to size so that we can put it through. Okay. Same thing, guys. I make sure I'm on the front, so we've got all these kind of deboss spaces. And I can't remember if I preferred this the other way, actually. I feel like maybe I did use this one before. Do need a new stays on pad. I'll put it in, and I'm going to put it through my Big Shot. So you shouldn't need to, but I do like to run mine through twice. But you shouldn't need to, in theory. So that's okay. Like I said, I prefer certain ones more. I could do this again because you can kind of see where things are and kind of fit it in. If I felt like, oh, this doesn't feel like it's got enough ink on it, which this one doesn't. This one doesn't feel enough. So we could come on again. I'm going to try this because I've never done this before. I'm going to come on again with this. I do think if my ink pad was juicier, that would help. But we're going to experiment, and I'm going to come on again with this and run this through. Okay, so I don't know what this is going to look like. Ooh. I guess we're going to see. Oh, we just kind of got rid of the other embossing, and I kind of like it because it's even darker than this one. Let me stop moving them around so you can see them. Yep, I like that. Okay, let's try a different one. So that one didn't work very well. I want to try... We have this one, which is the Tapestry 666388. Again, it's one of the Texture Fades one. So I want to try this. I feel like I've tried the Tapestry before and I might not have liked it. But we're going to try it. Obviously, this one, you're not really going to have that faux leather feel in some ways, but the piece will still feel like faux leather. Okay, let me run that through. Okay, here we go. Let's have a look. Yeah, you see, that hardly picked up any at all. Maybe that was the ink. Let me try again. Realistically, I really do need a new ink pad. I'm really going to do this. And then we're going to run it through again. I haven't moved it, so it should be in the right place. Okay, let's see if that helped. Oh, it helped a bit more. We got more colour. We did get a bit more colour. Still preferred this. Now, what I want to do now is I want to try something different. So firstly, I want to try maybe a different colour. I don't know if I like the brown, but I have this. I was actually sent this by Tony as well. So it's just one of the X-Cut ones. It's called Festive Florals. There is the code XCU515921 by Do Crafts. And I'm wondering if I want to try a different thing. Oh, do I try the black again? Let's try a different ink pad on here. Now this is where you can turn it around. I think I want the leaves. Do you see how the leaves here are more debossed? So they stand out, but we're not going to get colour on those. We'd get colour on everything else. Whereas these are more raised. So let's try it the other way, because why not? And this is my Arondique lettuce here. So this is a bit tricky. Let's take that off. I just want to see if this will even show up on here. We're going to turn it the opposite way this time. And let me emboss that. Okay, I think the ink's going to be too light, but let's have a look. We turned it the other way. Oh, we do get some of that green. Do you see that? And it is in the leaves. Oh, I kind of like that. I wonder, hold on. It's going to be really hard to match this back up again. But let's see if we can. I wonder if I could come on with a little bit of my VersaFine vintage sepia, just in some places. I want to kind of experiment a little bit. I don't know if this will work. Also, I need to work out where it all was. So that's going to be fun. That is there. There we go. That is all now lined up. And let me run that through. Okay, let's see if that did anything. Oh, it kind of did. There's light brown in places. Do you know what? I don't know if the light is picking this up well enough. But it is really pretty. And obviously this is quite stark. Yeah, I really don't like this one. So this is quite stark, but this has the green on it. Both sides are nice. So whether you wanted the embossed or the debossed. Now what I want to do is, first of all, clean this. Now what I want to do is, sorry that you're shaking, it's just the way it is with the camera. I want to see what it looks like with some stamping. So let me grab some stuff. If you're going to do this, it's probably best to use stamping that isn't something that you need to see a lot of, if that makes sense. And we're going to try and stamp underneath before debossing. This is a Crafty by Tony. I thought as she had asked for it. And this is her, I think it's her signature one. Postal, it's one of her postal ones. Let's try and stamp on here. We may not get very clear images because, where's my stamp pad? Because of the mediums on here, and I'm going to stamp in black, and I want some script stamp. We're going to use that one first. Use my Versamark. No, my stays on black. I'm just going to come on. I want to see what this looks like, because you can obviously stamp afterward too, but we're going to see if this does anything. Like that. And also, I'm wondering about if you wanted to add more texture, depending on what kind of embossing folder you've got, because obviously, as always, I encourage you to use what you have. But if you don't have an embossed texture embossing, Tony's got hers, but also I really like this one, which is the Marianne Designs Texture Stamp Crackles MM1629, and I use this a lot. So let's maybe come on in the Vintage Sepia, because I kind of want more background texture, and we're going to get texture when we put it through the embossing folder. I have to decide what embossing folder. Just be aware, obviously, when you're embossing onto this, it is it has almost a glossier coat, so don't move your stamps around too much. I'm trying to look at what one I might like on here. We might go for the leaves again. I mean, let's try the leather one for now. It's not leather, it's called Reptile, but I want to try this first. And I'm wondering, let's do the black. Let's do the black first. Maybe more down here where it's more spaced apart. And I'm going to put that on there. Close that up and then emboss. Okay, so I don't know how this is going to turn out, so I guess we discover together. Okay, so you can see the inked stamping in the background. The brown has disappeared a little bit, but there's more of the crackle there. So if your tea bags or coffee filters or whatever don't have enough kind of texture to them, you can add more texture. Do I like the writing in the background? I'm not sure that I necessarily do, but that's okay. That's why we're experimenting. Like so. And I wanted to, if we are going to do, I really like this one, to be honest. I want to do the leaf one again. Let's do it the other way. Let's try it with the black over the top. Yeah, I definitely need more stays on. Let's try this. You could probably do it. I think I did it in the green, didn't I? So I'm going to do this and this, and we're going to take this over. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, we didn't get as much of the black, but I do love how this looks. I thought we'd have more of the black background, but again, my stays on is not very juicy, so there is that. However, I do really like that. I am wondering then if you came on with a little bit of, this is ground espresso. Let's see. You could pick up some of that detail in places and make it a bit darker. In places, not everywhere, just want it in some places. And this is also where you could also bring back a stamp, like a texture stamp, and you could come on either in black. Again, I'm going to use my Versamark in Vintage Sepia, and you can add more stamping over the top. Again, being aware that you need to sort of place it and not move it too much, because it will move around because of the mediums that you've used. I do like that. Can you see the stamping on there? See it over here? I do like that. I wonder though. I'm wondering about coming on with a tiny... I don't really want the black on there. That's the thing. Maybe we just leave it like that. I mean, the brown's quite brown and we have inked it up. So we're going to leave that. So basically, guys, we have lots of different ones. This is my original one. This is using the black again, then going over with an ink pad. You could probably use sprays and things. You could probably drip it in between and get really cool effects. You could actually, let's try something. So what I was thinking is, let's see how gilding works on here. So that is what I'm going to do, but maybe just in a few places. So I'm just going to put some glue on, and this glue I'm going to end up spreading out with my finger. But you can see kind of how easy it is. You just have to experiment with your embossing folders and your inks and your stamps if you want stamps on there too, either beforehand or afterwards. That's all I'm going to do on that one, and I'm just going to like dot that on so it's a bit more kind of everywhere. I don't think this will be exact, but that's okay. We're just gonna do it as best we can. And then I've always got the Autumn Leaves Gilding Flakes from Cosmic Shimmer, because this is one of my favourite ones. So far I've never had to repurchase it, even though I use it a lot. And I'm just going to dab it on my finger. Now, there are gilding flake glues. There are gilding flake tutorials. There are even, I think, gilding flake kind of varnishes. I don't use any of those. I've just learnt from trial and error. So I'm going to leave this a couple of minutes for it to really seep in. I like to press it down so that I know it's stuck to the glue, but I'm going to leave it for a few minutes and then I'll come back. So once again, there are tools for this, or special brushes, but I have always used my Perfect Pearls brush. It's really soft and it's kind of rounded, and that's where I come on and I do this. I would suggest, if you're doing any kind of gilding, please do it in some sort of container, like one of those little things, those little ones that you can put, that are meant to be for beading and things. They work well. But yeah, please do that, because it will kind of just go everywhere, gilding flakes. Okay. I feel like I got a bit of glue there when I didn't want a bit of glue there, but that's okay. Not perfect, but it's good. So yeah, we've put, there's definitely too much there. Hold on. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Yeah, so as I said, there's tools for these things, but I use what I have, and I always encourage you guys. So look at the gilding on there. I mean, you can gild embossed pieces anyway, but obviously we've got the tea bag, the stamping, and the inking underneath all that too, and I absolutely love it. So that was with, was it brown that we used on there? We used the black, the Stays on Black, and then we went over it with some ground espresso and then some stamping in VersaFine Vintage Sepia, and then we have the beautiful gilding too. I'm actually going to cut this to size. And don't worry about all these little scraps that I'm cutting off, because they will just go in my scrap paper bin, which is perfect. Oh, just look at that. That would look amazing in a journal, I think. Anyway, and scraps in my scrap paper. And then we did, this was with stamping underneath and then using the Stays On and the Reptile embossing pad. You can see the stamping underneath. I'd probably want a little bit more. These are both just using the Stays On black ink with the Reptile. I love these. Look how soft they are, guys. And these are great for cutting. Got that one there. I don't know why this one's browner than this one. Maybe the card was different. Maybe I did something differently. I don't know. What was I saying? You can cut and die cut shapes out of this. This was using a folder and it just didn't work very well, this one. So I think this was the damask folder. Nothing wrong with the folder itself. It just, this technique prefers certain designs over other designs. So there's that. That's why you have to experiment. And here we used the green, didn't we? We used, was it lettuce? And yeah, we used the green on this, and we debossed rather than embossing, which I still really love actually. And then we used some of the brown. So there you go, lots of different things. I would encourage you to experiment. It's brown paper and some tea bags, so it's not things that are super expensive, and you can just experiment and you can try whatever inks you've got. You can, look at that, try your different folders, try maybe layering up more inks. Maybe if you don't use tea bags, I don't know how it would work with coffee filters, but maybe that would work. You want something that's going to go more translucent. Doesn't have to be completely translucent. Like a tea bag obviously isn't translucent, so you would use darker brown paper, but you also want some texture in there. You want the colors in the background, that kind of mottling. But if you don't have that, you can try that with stamps instead. And I hope that helps, guys. I hope, you know, as I said, just experiment. This one was darker and it feels sturdier than these, so I've probably used, I have used a different brown paper, I can tell. And this one's got more white on the edge, where I didn't trim off the edges. So definitely, if you're using tea bags, make sure that you do peel the little edge bits rather than leaving those on there. But I also quite like the white as well. But yes, so just have fun. And I really love this gilding effect. It can be a little difficult to get it where you want it, but that looks good too. So anyway, I hope this helped, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. It was not necessarily a tutorial because I'd kind of forgotten most of it, as you saw. But it does show you how to make this faux leather paper. I feel like you can scrunch it up underneath, but it would just flatten out anyway. So yes. I hope that helps, Tony. Anyway, I'm sure you will do a video on it and have a lot of fun and probably come up with tips and techniques that would work as well. And yes, that's it for now. So brown paper, tea bags, embossing folders, permanent inks and some Mod Podge, and you get faux leather paper, which is great to use in journals. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe and comment and share if you haven't already. I'll be back soon with another video. And until next time, guys, I hope you're having lots and lots of crafty fun. Bye for now.